Is Trey Hendrickson going to be tagged today by the Bengals? And is that the best way for them to move forward? Obviously, he wants a new contract. If the Bengals tag Trey Hendrickson today, they would likely do it with the intent that they would be trading him. Would that be the best idea for them to kind of navigate this offseason with Trey Hendrickson, a pass rusher who clearly hasn't been happy with the Bengals? And the Bengals defensively, they need a lot of help.
Mm-hmm.
So getting back something in a trade could help booster the defense, which we know offensively, if Joe Burrow is standing and able, he and the wide receivers are going to be good enough to go on a run. They need to get better on defense. Is trading Trey Hendrickson after applying a tag today the best way for the Cincinnati Bengals?
No, I don't think so. They tried this last year and it failed miserably. Like, they tried this and they overvalued Trey Hendrickson, and he's coming off of another injured season. And I just don't think that this is in the best interest for the Bengals. What's best for the Bengals is just cut bait and let him become a free agent, and he's going to be the number one free agent out there, and let him just go wherever he may go. Because right now, if they do that, you're going to have another disgruntled player. And what if nobody trades for Trey Hendrickson? Then you're stuck.
Well, I mean,
you're stuck paying that much money to a player who doesn't want to be there.
But the intent would be, if you just let him go, you're not getting anything.
Okay.
Like, at least I'm guessing from what I've kind of read is that at least they would be able to get like a 4th or a 5th round pick back for Trey Hendrickson. Because, like, obviously he is worth more than that.
Yeah.
But because he needs a new contract, whoever makes a trade knows they're going to have to give an extension to Hendrickson.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're the Bengals, I think today you tag him with the intent that next week at the combine, you find a trade partner and you move him for a 4th round pick.
I don't think they will, just because.
But like from the Bengals standpoint,
yes,
that would be the best idea. You got to get something back. Just letting him go,
I think that was
you're not going to get anything.
That's
back.
what they tried to do last year, and they valued him too. They overvalued him, and no one was willing to give them what they wanted.
But haven't we gotten to the end of the road with this? Like, it's very obvious.
So just let him go.
He's not going to be a Cincinnati Bengal for the rest of his career.
So just let him go.
I think you got to get something for him.
I don't think so. I think that's more of an NBA. We've got to. This guy's contract is expiring. We've got to trade him and try to get something back for him.
What? You don't just let guys go at that caliber.
His contract is up. You let him go.
But if you franchise tag him, so Trey Hendrickson, and I'm seeing this from Sports Illustrated, Trey Hendrickson, if the Bengals placed the franchise tag on him, he would be set to make $30.2 million this upcoming season, which, as they say, is a bargain for an acquiring team. Mm-hmm. Although, based on that and the cap hit, they would have to give him an extension at some point. Otherwise, you'd have the same disgruntled situation that you would have. I'm guessing if you're a team looking for an edge rusher, you would be more than willing to give up a 4th round pick for Trey Hendrickson, knowing you just have to dole out some cash on the flip side.
Yes, you could. The problem is, though, this is what happened to the Bengals last year. You say we can just take, now we can get something. Now we could get a 4th round pick. Now we just need to get something. But then your GM brain kicks in and you're like, well, we should get at least a 2nd for him. Well, he's had how many sacks the last few years? Well, we should probably get at least a 2nd for him, right? Like at least a 2nd. And then someone calls with a 2nd. You're like, I think he's worth at least a 1st round pick. And then you're screwed because you're stuck with an injured Trey Hendrickson who doesn't want to be there. And because no one wanted to give you a 1st round pick for him. And then you've got to, because now teams are saying, I got to give up a 4th round pick or a 3rd round pick and I have to pay him. No, thank you. He's coming off of an injury. The best way for both parties is just go your separate ways, because now teams are saying, I got to give you a draft pick and I got to pay him. He didn't play half the year. No, thank you.
It's Bleck Abdalla here on Westwood One Sports. Dan Graziano was on ESPN television earlier today talking about Trey Hendrickson, and he thinks the best fit for Hendrickson is with the Colts.
Trey Hendrickson of the Colts, I believe it makes a lot of sense. They've been looking for edge rush help for a number of years. The defensive coordinator for the Colts is Lou Anarumo, who coached Trey Hendrickson some of his best years in Cincinnati. It makes a lot of sense. It can be a short-term deal for a veteran player who might have the kind of impact the Colts are looking for. Colts have not won their division. They've gone the longest of any team in their division without winning it. It has been quite a drought for Indianapolis. We know they had a great start to last year and then fell apart. They want to make sure and finish it off. Trey Hendrickson, if he gets back healthy and to the kind of player he was in Cincinnati, can certainly be a guy that helps them do that.
Yeah, it would make a lot of sense in Indy. It really would. And they're a team that clearly is going for it, right? Last season, in season, at the deadline, making the trade for Sauce Gardner. Didn't work out last season specifically because Gardner got hurt. But to bolster that defense last year in a situation where they got off to such a hot start, and the Colts were like the team when the weather was nice, right? Like in September and October, everyone was talking about the Colts. And the fact that if they look to add someone like Hendrickson this offseason, that would really help. When we look at the Colts specifically, the question whether or not they will tag Daniel Jones is something to keep our eyes on at 4 Eastern today as well, because of the names who I think are the big-time names who could be tagged today. Daniel Jones is one. We can talk about George Pickens with the Cowboys, whether or not he will be tagged as well. Hendrickson with the Bengals. Those are some of the biggest names that we got to keep our eyes on today at 4 Eastern.
Yeah, I think it's likely that they go with Daniel Jones because you can't let him go away because you don't have another quarterback. When they decided to trade for Sauce Gardner, they gave up a lot of draft picks. They gave up 2 first-round picks. So you can't do anything in the next 2 first rounds. You're tied to Daniel Jones. You have to give him a contract. You can't draft a quarterback this year. You can't draft a quarterback next year in the first round. You're stuck. So you've got to negotiate. You at least have to tag him to negotiate with him. It's going to be around $47 million. If you think that Daniel Jones is worth $47 million, then by all means tag him and give him $47 million this year. And if you want to tag him again next year, then that's fine. You can do that too. I would tag him to negotiate with him and do it that way. To go back to Trey Hendrickson for a second, the reason that if you're the Colts, you hope to God that the Bengals don't tag him because you only have a 2nd-round pick, a 3rd-round pick, a 4th, and a 5th, and a 7th. You don't have other picks. So if the Bengals are like, we want a 3rd-round pick for him, you're like, I'm not giving you a 3rd-round pick because then I only have 4 other picks in this draft because I traded all these picks for Sauce Gardner. So I'm not giving up more things to get a player that I then need to sign also to give a contract to. So it eliminates the teams that you can then go for because teams have been making these deals for these other players. So you hope if you're the Colts, you can tag Daniel Jones, negotiate with him at some point in the offseason, sign him to a 3-year extension, whatever it is, a new contract, and then hopefully you can negotiate with Trey Hendrickson if he doesn't get tagged and you sign him in the offseason as well. You've you've adjusted your defensive line and you've found your quarterback for the next 3-4 years, as long as you've got Sauce Gardner at least, because for the next 2 years, you don't have 1st-round picks because you've invested in Daniel Jones and invested in Sauce Gardner because you traded for him and made a huge investment in Daniel Jones by trading for Sauce Gardner and giving up those 1st-round picks.
Yeah, the Colts situation is this. They do have 7 picks in this year's draft, except for 4 of those picks are in the 5th round or later.
Yeah.
So they've got a 5th, they've got a 6th, and they have 2 7ths. One of the 7ths is being a comp pick that they get towards the end of the draft. So, the way you look at team building in the NFL is, sure, you're looking for players who can be on your roster and to help out from the 5th round plus, but essentially the starters for your team are being built in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and the 4th round. And that's where the Colts entered this offseason. Last year being 8-9, they had a great start to this season. They lose 7 games to finish out the year. Quarterback issues. You don't have a 1st-round pick. You have a 2nd, a 3rd, and a 4th, and that's it. And then you have all those picks at the end of the draft, which, the way I view it is like, sure, there are examples of players who become great from the later rounds.
Yeah.
But for the most part, you're looking at building your team with 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round picks.
It's a lottery ticket. You hope to find someone. If you find,
well, they're depth pieces, right?
Yeah. Look, if you find a great running back, if you find a good running back in the 6th round, great. If you find a good special teamer in the 7th round or 6th round, awesome. If you find a depth at your offensive line, that's great. But for the most part, these guys are going to be on your practice squad. These guys are going to be, coming into training camp, and some of them aren't even going to make the roster. Some of them are going to be cut in their second or third year. So a lot of these guys just, again, these 6th and 7th round picks, that's why I say, they don't have a lot of early round picks because they've invested in Sauce Gardner and now in Daniel Jones. You have to get something done with Daniel Jones, because if you just let him walk, what did you trade for Sauce Gardner for?
Yeah, you're right. And I think that's one thing with the Colts. Chris Ballard has gotten kind of a pass. Like, people think that he's a great GM. And I think it's been a little hit or miss with Chris Ballard and the Colts. Like, specifically what we're talking about later rounds in the draft. Like last year, their 2 last picks didn't play at all, right? So they had 2 guys out of the draft class that didn't play at all. If you go back to the 2024 class, they have 6 players that were drafted that never played in a game, never did anything, right? So when you're building the team through the draft and you are then making the moves to make up for bad past drafts, that's where you find yourself trading for Sauce Gardner.
Yeah.
That's also where you find yourself in a position, if Trey Hendrickson gets tagged today, is Indy the team that makes a move to bring Hendrickson in? What are you giving up? A 4th round pick. Okay, well, the Colts do have a 4th round pick. They could get that done, but then that would leave them with only 2 picks before the 5th round in this year's draft.
Exactly.
So I think that's where it is all very fascinating to kind of keep your eye on as the movement is taking place around the NFL. Today is tag day. So the franchise tag can be applied. 4 Eastern is when teams can announce and start making the moves on that as we head towards free agency in the NFL.